everybody? It is your professor, Rocco, your boy, coming at you again with another Age of Sigmar video. In this, I think this is a master class, everybody. Let's get excited. We're going to get a little technical with this. I break down how I practice my deployment for tournaments and such, because I've said before you should practice your deployment. I've said how I use TTS to practice specifically. I've not really shown anybody like what my thought process is and what I'm going to do. So I'm currently playing in a tournament that is a tabletop simulator tournament where we're in teams, and then we have different matchups and different battle plans. There's a selection of 5 battle plans. Each team has 8 lists, and I play a few of our lists as needed. And this is my thought process, a little step behind the curtain here, as I'm inside Tabletop Simulator. I don't know, I probably broke the program, but let's see what happens. Now let's get right into it. So, this is a slightly modified version of the normal Dianoc table, where it's made specifically for the different General's Handbook plans here. Where a cool thing is, whoever's the attacker and defender role, right? If you become the defender, you can choose whether you want a dense board full of terrain or a slightly lighter board. I'm going to show you what I mean here. So click the place button. And boom. For the lovely battle plan, battle lines drawn. That's our board. That should be the third one. Battle lines drawn. We're going to set up the deployment zone. So this is what we're looking like here for our battle plan and deployment. And actually, just play this last battle round, where I was chosen to play Deepkin versus an Underguts army played a lovely guy. Can't go too much detail because, let's be honest, I didn't actually remember to ask, like, hey, can I go over all your stuff and blow you up on the internet? I didn't, so we're going to follow the nice little honor code there. But the person was fantastic. And I knew beforehand that his list, because of how this tournament is set up, I get to see the list beforehand. It was Underguts. It was all the shooting you could pack into a list with a couple Noblar screens on either side. And a really cool use of the new Pirate Ogre Underworld's Warband, which is really cool to see, and the Hunter Warband, the Icebrow Hunter that came out. So it was a really cool list. It's a list I've played against similar lists in the past, so I had an idea of what I could do here. And looking at the terrain, because again, that's the whole point of this, right? Because first thing I did was be like, okay, I know it's table quarters. I need to fit my whole army here, outside of 9 inches of the middle. Alright, and for the record, the army that I have here is, y'all get to see, because first, I made the list, right? I went on my mods for Tabletop Simulator, made the list up, like, cool, this is just how I saved it, going over it quickly. It's a Nautilus list that'll be loading in soon. I think this angle will get me a better view of the heroes we have. Alright. So, as this comes in, I've got my shipwrecks, right? 2 halves there, because in this kind of a deployment, I don't think I'll be able to actually get a full ship in. But my general is the Thrall Master with the command trait Lord of Storm and Sea, where it's the Battle Shock immunity bubble. I have a Soul Render that has the Grow a Boat artifact. I've got a Lotan for +1 to wound in melee, because that turtle needs to wound on a 2. So do these thralls. And we got 2 30 blocks of Reavers, Shelly Baby Girl, who I love to death, and a unit of 10 thralls as a screen. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I know even without terrain being involved, I need to fit into a table put into 4 corners there. So I know that my units are a little unwieldy, the 230 blocks, but I need to make sure that they're able to actually get their shots in. I'm also a 1-drop in this list, and my mount trait that I took for Shelly is the larger aura, so I'll be able to hit my whole army with the +1 to save, and with the 2 boat halves, be able to pretty much affect whatever units I need to affect with the 5-up ward aura from the boats. And I know from playing a lot what underguts do. Underguts have, especially with 4 iron blasters and the artifact of the trophy rack on a tyrant, they want to shoot my monsters and my heroes for extra shots. They have a lot of lead belchers that if they move have D3 shots per lead belcher. If they stand still, they have D6. There was a large 8-pack, and then there was several 4s of lead belchers. There was a butcher. That had the blubber grub stench spell. So what that does is it specifically lets the Rhinoxes on the Iron Blaster, because the Iron Blaster is like a big, smaller than the normal woolly mammoth, but it's got a big cannon on it. So it doesn't have the wounds and isn't counted as a monster for the ogres. Now the ogres have an ability currently, there's going to be a new book soon, but bear with me here, follow me camera guy, where when a unit from the Ogre Mod Tribes book currently charges, they roll a dice for however many dice what you got on the charge. You rolled an 11, you roll 11 dice. And on a 6-up, you do a mortal wound. If you are a monster, you do it on a 4-up. If you have a large unit of foot ogres, I think the breakpoint is 8. Off the top of my head here, it might be 6. But if you have a large enough unit of ogres, and I want to say it's 8, you can do it on a 4-up as well. The spell Blubber Grub Stench is an aura ability where you have an 18-inch aura where you will be able to make your Rhinoxes, read that as your big Iron Blaster cannon artillery pieces, be able to charge in and do mortal wounds on a 4-up as well. I know that when ogres are not in combat, they're hungry and they get 2 extra inches of movement. I know that when they are in underguts, the lead belchers, the ogres carrying the cannons on foot, they get extra range on their shots. And I also know, because of the tournament type, I can see the table, that right in the middle here is a wildwood. And we are using all the scenery rules. This is a line of sight blocking piece of terrain right here. This is a defensible tower. Then we've got terrain to hide in that's damned. I have an arcane wall over here. There's another arcane wall over here. There is a damned wall over here. Those are impassable. How we're playing that is that you can fly over it, but you can't land on it and end your movement on it. Which I like for walls. It makes sense for how they codify these things. And the woods are mystical for a ward save. The tower's inspiring as well. And when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking to myself, damned, if you take D3 mortal, you take D3 mortal wounds and you get +1 to hit. If you have a bunch of Rhinoxes that have 9 wounds each, my opponent's going to want to deploy over here because they'll be able to hit the damn terrain, instead of spending command points for all-out attack, they'll get +1 to hit from there. They also have an arcane terrain here in this wall. Ogres have a terrain piece that allows them to be +1 to casting. So between that and the magical wall over here, they're going to be at +2 to casting and at least +1 to unbinding. I don't remember off the top of my head if their terrain piece also adds for unbinding. But if my opponent gets to choose sides, they're going over there. And then we have to contain with or play contain defense here with this big old tree, because I have a shooting army for all intents and purposes. We're gonna have a gunfight. We're gonna play 40k in an Age of Sigmar world right now. So I need to figure out how I want to deploy here. We need to be 9 inches away from each other from the middle. So I'm gonna copy and paste me a 9-inch thing here. Like there, and then I'm gonna legitimately just do this out. Y'all wanted the peek behind the curtain, here it is. We need to be 9 inches away from each other's territory, which goes right up to the middle here. And we gotta also worry that it's triangles, and I know this is where everyone's like, oh my goodness, I never use math, but here's the Pythagorean theorem right here about which way is the short way across a triangle. So I have to be cognizant of that. I also need to know that I'm a 1-drop, my opponent is like 9. I will always outdrop them, so I will decide who gets first turn. And I know, before the game starts, what ritual I'm going to pick. Now, if we remember, through some of my videos, Idoneth Deepkin get a fun rule where they each battle round, they get to do a certain thing. They get a buff. Like the first battle round, my whole army counts as being in cover, as long as they don't charge, right? Because that's the cover rule. I could also do a ritual, because I do have an elf hero capable of doing it, to make it so that my enemy can't shoot me unless they're within 12 inches of my units. So when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking to myself, how can I limit their shooting but still make mine effective? I know that lead belchers move 6 inches normally, but we're not going to be in combat, so they're going to move 8. If I'm going to give away first turn, I'm going to want to try to put a boat around here-ish, 1/2. Because I have to be wholly within my my deployment zone. I'm probably going to throw another one back here because I don't necessarily care about it. I have in this list the grand strategy where I have to keep enemies away from my boat at the end of the game. If you're Deepkin, that's pretty easy to do because either you're going to die or you're going to table your opponent. Is how games generally go. Because Deepkin just throws out damage like nobody's business, but half the time, and especially with how this list is built, we cannot take a hit. So I need to make sure that I know my list and I know my win condition. I need to shoot my opponent more than they shoot me. And I also know I really don't have screens in this list. My main screen are these 10 thralls, and then after that I'm throwing heroes or maybe the turtle out, but I need the turtle alive to do damage and melee for myself and take pot shots with the harpoon launcher. See if I could snipe a character or two. So I also know that I need to be able to play the battle plan, which is each table quarter here is an objective. Deepkin want to castle around the turtle, or whatever your main buff piece is, and by castling, just group up together in a big murder ball and move forward together. So I know I'm probably going to have to start my murder ball somewhere in the middle here and be just far enough outside of my opponent's range where they cannot walk up and shoot me with all of their stuff. They have to walk around the tree, or if they walk through it, have to actually get to the other side. It's going to be tough. I know my opponent is probably going to be on the damn terrain with their iron blasters. So I can make it so that the first round, they just can't shoot anything. You know, and then my debate is, do I do that ritual and then just be like, I'm going to super buff my thralls so they just don't die, but the best save I can get them on is a 4-up? Or no, what do I do? So I'm gonna show you what I did. We're gonna through the magic of television, because what I did was I went in here with a friend of mine who plays ogres, the lovely Pask, who will eventually make his debut on the channel, my Aussie friend. who just got 4th place at a GT in Ballarat, Australia, running Meat Fist Ogres, believe it or not. And we game planned this out over what I remembered of Ogres and what he knows very, very well on how I actually can try to set up my deployment here. So first we're going to get rid of that army. Because what I did was to make my life easier for me, as I almost delete the thing. See, I have past 2k win drop, not actual. As we know, the boat's got to take a second to load. So you can see what already showed up is I am very clustered around my turtle. And instead of being all out, I know I'm a 1-drop. I know I'm going to put everything down first to make my life easier. I know that this will be my deployment. I will pick this up and show y'all what I did, because I made it so that I could be on either side of the table and make it so that it all fits. This is generally what I did. I think Shelly was a little bit more up. She was touching the wall. So, my idea here. I'm going to lock this ship in place and this other ship here. This looks about right. Is I'm a 1-drop. So my opponent's going to just be able to counter deploy me no matter what. What I'm going to do is I know math, right? It's numbers. We don't talk about it. It does, you know, people say we don't use it after we leave school. That's not true. You just don't realize it that much. So let me explain before everyone gets mad. Throw that over there. And this elf over here. What I did was I have my thralls up front. They are about, what do you say here? They're about 11.5 inches from the middle of the board. What this means is if my opponent puts lead belchers here and I pop my ritual, they will not actually have the movement to move 8 inches and then still be able to shoot me. It's going to look really close. If I messed up my number and fudged it a little bit, and it was a little bit off, 1 or 2 get in. Okay. If my opponent wanted to go with the blubber grub play and just line up the iron blasters here, they're going to try to move up and try to charge me. I'm going to be just far enough away where if they do make the charge, these guys will get creamed because they'll be doing mortal wounds on like on 12 dice on 4-ups. But then the rest of my army is right here to shoot them. So I can now play my game a little bit better. I know that Lotan can give my archers run and charge early. Or run and shoot, really. So what I'll do, even if I'm not running and shooting, is I have an 8-inch movement. On my turn, I'll at least move these archers over to this table quarter. Move the turtle up and move these guys over here towards the big tower where my opponent might garrison some things. And I will have play in the middle of the board. And then if I double turn, I will be able to... I could draw this too. So the game plan is my opponent will try to come in here. Alright? That's what they're doing. Ogres are coming around the way. They're going to go and definitely jump over here and over here to easy score 1, 2, and more objectives in a battle tactic. Then they're going to put their forces far up here. Because I was smart in my deployment, they won't be able to actually shoot me with anything meaningful. They have to play around the tree. And I am in range from here with my 15 inches over there and all the way up here with Shelly's +1 to save aura. And if someone does somehow make a long bomb charge and come aggressive to me, that means they're going to be wholly within Shelly's aura for my +1 to hit buff to hit them back, which is amazing. I have the, I believe, wholly within 18 aura to return to Marty off of my Soul Render, which everyone is in. I have these elves screening out the back of my deployment where I know the hunter and his pet dog won't be able to fit. And I've made it so that because I was smart in my deployment, when I give away first turn, if they just even walk up a little bit, I can play reactively and actually deal out a lot of damage. And if I get a double turn, the game is pretty much over because I have an 8-inch range movement with my Reavers. We're playing the same game as the Ogres, just different ways to get to the same end place. But his shooting moves 8, my shooting moves 8 with my Reavers. Shelly moves 10, which is nice. And the Thralls are just there to die, but they move slow, and that's okay. Deepkin also has a rule where my opponent needs to shoot the nearest unit. If I can force him to shoot my Thralls, and they're still within their aura range, either from the boat or maybe by this Wildwood, they just become that much more defensible. And then if I all-out defense them, they'll be a 4-up save, ignoring one Ren because of the turtle aura, and potentially ignoring another Ren because my whole army counts as being in cover right now in the first battle round. And then after that, it's just the turtle save and all-out defense. But those are the only 2 units I'm spending it on. So all of a sudden, this 10-man unit of Thralls with a 4-up ignoring one Rend and probably a 5-up ward if I'm playing my spacing right, they just won't die. And then from there, again, my opponent will move. We know they're going to have someone tap over here. We know someone's going to tap over there. And we know he's going to have to put some kind of a screen because this is a tournament player, and they know that if I get the double turn and they don't screen, that turtle's going to go screaming on my... So 10 inches forward to start with, and then another 10 up to 16 inches because I can run in charge of my second battle round. Shelly's going to get into everything important by that second battle round if they don't screen. So I'm probably going to be able to shoot him without having lost a single archer. That's 60 total archers for 120 shots, probably hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s. And then I've got Shelly shooting plus combat. So I'm going to remove mathematically probably a third of his army if I do great, a quarter if I do bad. And then if I go again, I just remove enough that the game is just moot. That's not exactly what happened in the game, but I've set myself up for that. So what actually happened was, again, we played the Damned. He did come out here with Noblars to hold the points. Moved up a bunch of the Lead Belchers and moved up 2 Iron Blasters over here. Took good positioning, didn't get to shoot anything. And then on my turn, I shot 2 of his artillery pieces dead and a bunch of the Lead Belchers. And plan was working. Then I didn't get the double turn, and then he charged into me, and I had to make a choice on my turn, where because these Reavers were so far out by the time, because I did a cool little run and shoot thing. By the time, also Lotan's in the boat deployed, so that the +1 to wound aura is off the boat, not him. They were like here-ish. Shelly went up and over. Lotan moved up. This guy went in the boat. I didn't pop my artifact because it just wasn't worth it. Because I had nowhere to put it. Because it's used at the beginning or end of your first movement phase. I would have just plopped it there and it would have been useless. maybe I could have put something there, but it's whatever. And I had to make a hard decision here because I did fail the charge with Thralls, but I wanted Shelly screened, and I wanted, because my opponent was very centered in the middle, the Thralls could still be a screen, but I'd have to sacrifice these Reavers. But they did split their shots and killed 2 artillery pieces. So if I get the turn, what happens is, and these all, and also I got this objective, these all would then get to move up 8 inches, and then just dumpster all the Noblars holding here, and then the other Iron Blaster artillery piece, and then they would all just move up and go. What happened was, they ended up being a screen, which is okay. They actually went down to a single Reaver from all the damage that they took, but they got an amazing Unleash Hell and killed more stuff, and then did really good in combat. And they auto-passed their Battle Shock from a command point, or no, they didn't. That's why I went down to 1 person. I rolled good on my Battle Shock, and that was just how we did it, because I still lost like 12 dudes on Battle Shock. But then, because I'm in range of the Soul Render, I brought back some, and then I rallied 8 more, if I remember right. And we just set up over here, so that when it was my turn, I was able to be extremely aggressive. I shifted them over here to give me shooting on a bunch of lead belchers here, and I had to adjust my plan. Because, again, I lost a bunch of Reavers. But through my healing from the Soul Render and how I placed him, and from how I was able to, from my good deployment and smart movement, come back in a game where we traded evenly. He lost 1/4 of his army in the first turn. I lost 1/4 of mine at the top of 2. A lot of people would kind of call it there because I lost half of my archers. That hurts. But I was able to, through smart movement and rallying and how I set myself up for success in my deployment, claw it back, and then just win the game pretty much outright from there. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I know this was a shooting army. This is Deepkin that I know and play personally. And I know people want melee armies to be covered and how to deploy and how to do all this kind of stuff. Because, again, this is all stuff I worked out before the game. Because I'm familiar enough with ogres. I've gotten a lot of repetitions against underguts even. And I know Deepkin, even though this isn't my typical build. This was for a team tournament list to fit certain matchups. If you have a faction that, I know Khorne's been popular in the past, and Beast of Chaos I've worked with, and Night Haunt, we've gone over deployment stuff before. But, if you want to give a shout out to okay, Rocco, how do you plan as this melee army versus this kind of opponent? Put it in the comments. I'll give it a shot to see what would my game plan be playing as somebody. My most played opponent in tournaments is probably Khorne. Well, I think overall it's Khorne. But, I've played against enough Ossiarch Bone Reapers and current Khorne where I know their battle tomes better than the players. And, it's cool. Because outside of our hobby, this is useless trivia knowledge. But here, right now, let me help you help yourself. So, leave a like if you liked the video and my little story of my recap of my previous round. And be kind to each other too. Could use some more of that in the world. But yeah, leave a comment and give me some suggestions for stuff you want to see on the channel. And as I like to say at the end of all of our videos, class dismissed. Bye.